and we'll just hide you when it's time for you to be until it's time for you to be live.
Going to the volume?
Yeah, probably the.
That's cool.
So Donald,
Yeah.
remember the first 30 minutes is Robert cooking, and then you and I are going to go on with Doc at 6:30. So you're just going to hang out for 30 minutes, honey.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. And
got
when you
it.
go like that, that means we need to.
And you know, when I do my ears,
Yeah.
that means let's wrap up that question.
All right. So you're gonna go by the. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We're gonna go by the basic questions you have in that email.
Yes. You'll be perfect. You'll be perfect.
I'll be around to make sure you're okay.
I have no worries about you. Oh, that's.
I'm so glad to be off work in here.
I'm a lot to do, so nobody interrupt me.
Okay, all right.
I got a key to come in, okay?
Okay.
Yes.
But y'all can hear me good and everybody else, Diana?
Was it the bingo?
Hi, Chef. How you doing?
Oh, did work. Oh, that's so weird looking. It's backwards.
Donald,
Yes.
we're gonna hide you now, okay? So nobody can see you, and then we'll bring you back to the screen, and when it's your time.
Okay, because when y'all talking to me, it kind of has an echo to it. But on me talking to you.
You can't have any other device on in the room.
Let me turn my phone off.
Oh, who's in there?
Diana, you're muted.
I shut it. Oh, did you?
John Gilmore, turn all devices off in that room, honey.
Well, that's the one that we're on right now, right?
Check the mic.
Chef, your hat's looking beautiful.
Thank you. I had to center it. I wanted to make sure it was looking
You are just looking dapper
correct.
there, buddy. You're dapper.
All right, well, here we are.
And I really wish that you could send us some of your mac and cheese tonight. That's all I have to say. We're having withdrawals of.
This is the basic formula that people can go crazy with after they've done this once. Once
Okay.
you show them the bechamel sauce, then they can add in like 6 cheeses, paprika and onion and garlic powder, and they can go crazy.
We're ready for it.
But you
We're
gotta
not
know
gonna-
the beginning part first. What time does it start? We are starting in about 3 minutes. Yeah,
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Hang that box up.
All right.
Care about counter. You got to your thing.
Am I still muted?
No, you're
Oh, okay. Diana's muted. Or she's just not talking.
We are officially unmuted right now, Robert. So
Okay.
as soon as I get the thumbs up from the team.
Do we have some viewers?
All right, let's get rocking and rolling. Hello, everybody. I'm Diana Stanley, and I'm the CEO at the Lord's Place, and welcome to SleepOut 2021. We are so glad you're here, and this year we have a pre-show happening, and I am so excited to welcome you to the first half of our pre-show, which is Cooking with Chef Robert. I don't even have enough words to describe what a wonderful man this chef is, not only to the Lord's Place, but to the community. And he is a true servant at the Lord's Place who continues to train and touch the lives of so many. And besides all of that, he's a terrific chef. And so Robert is going to teach us how to make some great food tonight. We wish we were all together, because if you've ever been to a sleep out, we know that he makes the most fantastic macaroni and cheese. And so without further ado, I am going to turn it over to Chef Robert to teach us how to make mac and cheese and chicken fingers. So welcome to Sleep Out, and here's Chef Robert. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Diana. I really appreciate it. I want to say a special thank you to all of our sponsors and donors. Got my very cool sponsor hat on, so check that out. Want to thank everybody, our volunteers, our staff, everybody that's involved with Sleep Out. It's a great undertaking, and really appreciate everything that everybody has done. In addition to that, a couple of special shout outs. Want to shout out to Team Yes Chef's top donors. So I've got Kelly and Frank and Josh and Julie and Bob and Joyce and Scott. Want to say thank you to them for their sponsorship of Team Yes Chef. We're very excited about that. And also to my culinary team and culinary students back at Cafe Joshua, because they are awesome. So we're going to get cranking. We're going to start out. I've got my water boiling on the stove, and I'm going to get my pasta going, because that's going to take a little bit of time for us. We only have about 30 minutes for this cooking segment, so we're going to get it knocked out pretty quickly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this lid off my pot here, crank my heat back up a little bit. It's boiling pretty good. Now, I think they can't see this pot. You have to leave it on the other one. So if you're looking at that recipe, you'll notice that it says 1/3 cup of kosher salt. And I know everybody's freaking out because they're like, man, that is so much salt. But you got to remember, most of this water is going to get dumped down the sink. It's not going to be going into your pasta. the pasta will absorb some of this water and some of that salt, but most of that salt's going down the drain. So don't get too nervous about all the salt I'm putting in. Woo! We want our water to taste like the ocean when we're cooking pasta, because that pasta is going to absorb that water. And if it just absorbs plain water, it doesn't taste very good. So that salt is dissolved in there pretty well. We'll make sure that's good to go. And then I've got a box of my favorite cavatappi pasta, which are these cool corkscrews. I should show you what one looks like up close. In case you haven't seen a cavatappi pasta, it's kind of this cool corkscrew looking thing. And I don't know, they're super tasty. And what happens is all those little twists and turns and holes in the pasta are going to get all that cheese sauce in them, and it's going to be great. All right, so I've got my pasta in the water. I'm going to put my wooden spoon across the top. And it's true, if you put your wooden spoon across your pasta water, it's not going to boil over. It's going to get pretty close, but it's not going to boil over. So while that's cooking, and we're going to need about 12 minutes for that. Now, when I do my pasta for macaroni and cheese, I always cook it about a minute to a minute and a half longer than what it says on the box. So if your box says 11 minutes, go 12 minutes. And the reason is we want it to absorb a little bit more of that moisture so that it doesn't suck all the cheese sauce up and make the macaroni and cheese pasty and dry. So that's where we're at with our pasta. Now we're going to move over to this station, and we're going to get started with our chicken tenders while that pasta's cooking. So if you take a look at my station here, I went ahead and jumped ahead a little bit. And what I did was I already toasted my panko breadcrumbs. And so these are the breadcrumbs that you guys got. You put them in the oven at 400 degrees for about 4 minutes. And what's going to happen is they're going to get nice and toasty brown. And they're going to stay super crisp when we make those chicken tenders. So that's happening. That's beautiful. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to put some eggs in our bowl here. And I'm going to whisk these eggs up really well. And this is kind of what we're going to use to stick the panko to our chicken tenders or our chicken fingers. Chickens don't really have fingers, but they do have tenders. So get this egg mixed up really well. And then I'm going to put about 2 tablespoons of water in there. And that's going to help to kind of loosen it up a little bit and set on the chicken a little bit better. Now, if we were frying this chicken, we would be doing a 3-step process instead of a 2-step process. And that would be flour, egg, and then our breadcrumbs or seasoned breadcrumbs. But because we're not frying and we're baking, we want this panko to stick to the chicken. And in the baking environment, it's not quite as hot as a deep fryer. So it's not going to set up quite as nice. So this is a better way to go with a 2-step. All right, so we got that ready to rumble. And then the other thing I'm going to do is we've got some seasoning that we're going to put into this panko mixture. And this is a combination of some dried oregano and some garlic powder and some onion powder, a little bit of kosher salt, and a little bit of pepper. We're going to mix all that flavor in right there. That's going to be delicious. And we'll give that a good stir and make sure that's all in our breadcrumbs. Now I've got my oven preheated to 450 degrees. And so what I'm going to do, you can see I've got my chicken tenders right here. And I'm going to drop one into that egg wash. And then I'm going to let it drip dry a little bit. You can see that it's drip drying. And then I'm going to lay it in these breadcrumbs. Now, wet hand over here, dry hand over here. So I'm going to take my hand and sprinkle those breadcrumbs on top, because I don't want this hand over here, my dry hand, to get wet, because otherwise my fingers are going to get coated in breading, and then that's not going to be delicious. So we'll give that a couple turns, because now it's got good breadcrumb all over it. And then I've got a sheet pan right here, and I'm going to lay this on a rack. Now, I took my sheet pan and put a baking rack in here, and I highly recommend, if you get a chance, go to a restaurant store and pick up what's called a half sheet pan, which is what this pan is right here. And the half sheet is big enough to fit in your oven, but it's not too big. We use full sheets a lot at work in the commercial kitchen, and those are too big for a household oven. All right, we're putting another one in. Again, wet hand, dry hand. And these commercial baking sheets are oops, I messed up. I put my wet hand in the dry hand side. It's always a trick. Another one there. When you go to the restaurant supply store, you can pick up these half sheets, and you can also pick up the rack that's sitting on top here. And that rack is really super handy. It's going to keep your pans from getting really messed up. And it also allows the air to flow around the food that you're cooking when you're doing this kind of cooking of chicken or what else you might be throwing in the oven. All right, we'll do a couple more of these so everybody can kind of follow along. Again, wet hand, dry hand. We're getting these all mixed together really good. Plenty of breadcrumbs on this chicken, which is great. All right. Ooh, I'm sliding a little bit. Come back over here and frame. There we go. Hopefully everybody's doing good and kind of following along here on what we got going on. Now, you don't have to toast these breadcrumbs. It really adds a nice flavor, and it also adds a nice color and texture to the chicken. It stays a little bit crispier, and so that's kind of nice to do. But you can go with panko breadcrumbs right out of the box. Just put your seasoning in there, and it's going to work really well also. So it's just kind of an extra layer of flavor, so to speak. All right. So I've got this one done, and I got one more to go. All right. There we go. So we got our chicken tenders. They're all looking good. Switch this camera. So while we've got that going, all right. So we got those chicken tenders nice and breaded. I'm going to give this pasta a quick stir. A lot of times what happens is, come down a little bit, see it's so hot. A lot of times what happens is the pasta will try to clump together in the pot, and we don't want that to happen. So we're going to go ahead and give that a quick stir. So like I said, my oven is set at 450 degrees, which is awesome. And I'm going to go ahead and put this chicken, you can see what this rack looks like with the chicken tenders on it. And we will go right under that up. And now we're going into that oven for about 13 minutes or so, and then we're going to check it. I highly recommend getting yourself one of these handy dandy guys right here. It's a digital thermometer. Great way to take the temperature chicken, make sure that it's completely cooked, because we're working with raw chicken. We want to make sure that that gets to 160 degrees internal temperature. Now, if you look in the book, it'll say 165, but I know that this chicken is going to carry over heat for that extra 5 degrees. So if you measure it and it's 160, it's going to go to 165 on its own. It's not like food magically stops cooking the minute it comes out of the oven. It just doesn't work that way. So this digital read thermometer instant read is going to come in real handy for you when that chicken comes back out of the oven. So we've got our pasta cooking. We've got some chicken in the oven. The next thing we want to do is make our bechamel sauce. So the thing about bechamel is this is one of the mother sauces. And so what that means is it's a sauce that you can use to make a ton of other sauces. And so today we're going to make a cheddar cheese sauce. Once you know how to make this, you're never going to have like boxed Kraft macaroni and cheese again. Sorry, Kraft, but powdered cheese just doesn't cut it. So the way we start out is with a big fancy French term called Roux. It's spelled R-O-U-X. And what Roux is a combination of butter. And today we're going to use about 2 tablespoons. And I'm going to get that on medium heat. And we're going to let this butter melt, and then I'm going to add in about 2 tablespoons of flour. So a roux can be any combination of fat and flour in equal parts. It could be vegetable oil. It could be bacon fat, which is amazing. It can be lard. It could be Crisco. It can be butter. So whatever fat you want to choose to melt, equal amount of that and flour together. We're going to whisk that. And what that's going to do is that's going to create the thickening agent that we're going to use to thicken up this milk that we're going to put in there, bechamel milk sauce, that we're going to add into our roux, and that's what's going to make this sauce. That's the beginning. Once that gets up to temperature, we'll put in our flavorings, we'll put in our cheese, and then by then our pasta will be ready, and we're going to dump our pasta into this pot right on top of that cheese sauce. It's going to be fantastic. So my pasta is only about 2.5 minutes away from being ready, which is great. And our butter is melting nicely. So this will give you guys a little time to catch up while we're doing that. I'm going to get this butter melted really good in here. By the way, contrary to all popular belief, butter is way better for you than margarine. So it's much better to go with the natural product than some weird created thing that they made in the lab. Natural food's just better. All right, now when you put that flour into the butter, you're going to see it sizzle a little bit. We want to get all those lumps worked out with our whisk. And we're going to let this go for about 2 minutes. Now, roux can go anywhere from what they call a blonde roux, which is what we have right here, very light colored, all the way to a chocolate roux. You're going to be making gumbo or some of that good New Orleans food, but you're going to want to go with a chocolate roux. And usually when I do that, I don't use butter because butter tends to scorch and burn. And so I'll use vegetable oil instead, and I'll actually put the roux in the oven and let it roast for about an hour. That roux comes out beautiful chocolate brown, and the flavor that's in there is out of this world. But for a blonde roux, what we're going to do, we're just going to remove some of the flour flavor. We don't want it to have that kind of pasty, floury flavor. And it takes about 1.5 or 2 minutes for that floury flavor to kind of dissipate into the butter till we get it together. And now this is kind of the fun part here. So as we start to add our milk, a little bit at a time, you're going to see that sizzle. And if you look in the pan, it kind of almost looks like mashed potatoes. And that's kind of what's going on, is that, you know, as soon as that milk is hitting that roux, it's thickening it up. And so there's a lot of whiskey going on here, but you can see it kind of has a mashed potato thing going on, right? And so what we're doing is we're adding a little bit of milk at a time, and then we're stirring. And this is to make sure we're not going to have any lumps in this sauce. We're going to have a nice smooth sauce. We're letting this come back up to temperature again. Now you can preheat your milk when you do this if you want to. You don't want to boil it, but you can bring it up to below a simmer hot. And then you can add the milk in a little more quick. But as you can see right now, it's looking very saucy. Don't get saucy with me, bechamel. All right. And that's the timer for our pasta, so I'm going to let this sauce get a little warm for a second, and I'm going to go ahead and dump this pasta real quick. The one thing we want to do when we dump our pasta is we're going to reserve about a cup. Yeah, you can tilt up. I'm going to reserve about a cup of the pasta water. It's about a half cup. I'm going to reserve about a cup of the pasta water and hold that on the side. And the reason that I'm doing that is that when we finally put all our macaroni and cheese together with the milk and the sauce and everything, sometimes it gets a little thick. And so that pasta water is going to thin it out for us a little bit and give us that really nice, glossy, delicious looking macaroni and cheese. So while that's working, I'm going to take this pasta. I've got a strainer over in my sink. Work with towels a lot here. All right. Lots of smoke and steam happening over here. Awesome. Okay, we're going to get back to the sauce now. We'll let that pasta rest for a minute or two. And we're going to get the rest of this milk in here. Now, once all that milk is back in there, we want to bring it up to a temperature so that's going to melt this cheese, because that's the next step that we've got going on, is we want to get all this cheese nice and melted. So I'm going to whisk it pretty good. Now's a great time if you want to add in your Worcestershire sauce, and you can also add in your mustard and your pepper. Now, I will say that the recipe calls for white pepper. I didn't happen to have any white pepper in my kitchen. I thought I did, so I just used black pepper. So, you know, not the end of the world, but it'll look like there's little flecks in my macaroni and cheese sauce. All right. I'm gonna let that heat up just a little bit. I'm gonna finish that timer on our chicken. One thing you'll notice that happens in your strainer is sometimes your noodles will start to stick together in there. So it's good to give them a shake every once in a while you're in the process of getting this sauce made. And that way you'll have your pasta won't stick all together like that. All right, I've got some wisps of steam coming out of this milk now. So I'm going to go ahead and add in my American cheese and dump it in the cheddar cheese. The reason I put the American cheese in, because people sometimes think that's a little strange. It's not so much for the mac and cheese today. It's really for the mac and cheese tomorrow, because if there's any of this left over, which occasionally there is, after you put it in the fridge, all that cheese is going to set up. And then the next day, if you want to take some of that mac and cheese and heat up a little bit of milk and butter in a pan, you can put that mac and cheese back in there and it's going to come back to life again. And that American cheese really helps with that process. I guess because it's a processed cheese. That must be why. All right. So our cheese has melted up really nicely. All right, that really looks like a good cheese sauce there, good cheddar cheese sauce. Guys, are there any questions popping up over there? Is there stuff that you see that questions that people might have or we can answer? Got my helpful cameraman over there taking care of business for me. So we're going to check and see if there's any questions I can answer for you while we're doing this. That cheese sauce is perfect. It looks great. We're going to go ahead and give it a taste. See how it tastes. If you notice, if I go like this and it kind of coats the back of the spoon, that's called nappe, and that means that it's the right consistency. That is delicious cheese sauce. Very good. So now what's going to happen is I'm going to take this pasta, as you can see right here, and we're going to go ahead and put that right into this bowl of cheese. Try not to spill too many pieces of pasta all over the place. All right. Now we're going to give this a good whisk. So I don't know about you all, but this is starting to look like very delicious macaroni and cheese right here. And like I said, if it starts to get a little stringy, or you feel like it's starting to clump together a little too much, we can always add a little of that pasta water back in, and it's going to come out really nice. But I think this looks fantastic. What do you guys think? Does it look good? Yeah, right? Yeah. Pretty righteous. Okay. So we've got about 4 more minutes left on our chicken tenders before they come out of the oven. And so I'm going to go ahead and get a plate. And so I'm getting a plate together. You go ahead and switch over. All right. And the first order of business is to get some of this beautiful mac and cheese on the plate. Now, like I said, this is kind of the beginner's version of the recipe. Excuse me. Once you've kind of got this technique down of making this bechamel sauce and adding the cheddar cheese and making a cheddar cheese sauce, then you can start to mess around with the ingredients a little bit. So, this recipe called for 2 cups of cheddar cheese. You could break that into 6 different kinds of cheese and go a half a cup of cheddar, half a cup of provolone, half a cup of fontina. Any of your favorite cheeses that are kind of easy to melt, perfect to add into this recipe, as long as you come out to 2 cups of shredded cheese total. Parmesan is great in here. The other thing you can do is start adding some different herbs and spices in there. If you want to get some paprika, if you want to get some thyme or some other, maybe a little nutmeg, get really super fancy. It's really going to come out delicious. I'm going to take a peek in the oven real quick and see how these chicken tenders are looking. We're going to give them a quick temperature check. All right, they're doing pretty good. They're up to 130 already, so they're going to take that couple extra minutes, and then they're going to be ready to go. Did we see any questions on there
Let me look.
from folks? We're scrolling through right now to take a look at the questions and answers.
What kind of different cheeses can you use?
Okay. So I mentioned some of those. Like I said, any cheese that's a good melting cheese, I would shy away from mozzarella just because it's going to make the mac and cheese super stringy. But cheddars, Colby Jack, Fontina, Edam, Gouda. If you want to get a little, I don't know what, if you got a little crazy flavor thing going on, you can put some Gorgonzola or some blue cheese in there. Something Stilton, something along those lines. It's going to give it a sharp edge. There's a ton of good melting cheeses. Provolone is excellent. So hopefully that answers your question on different cheeses.
Next one, why don't you bake it?
Oh, the macaroni and cheese. You can totally bake this. So again, like I said, this is kind of a starter recipe. We wanted to get you guys going with really showing you the technique of making the roux, making the bechamel sauce. And then once you've done that, once you've learned the technique, recipes just become kind of a guidepost. They're not really the law. And so, from this step where we are right now on the plate, you could totally take all that macaroni and cheese, put it in a casserole dish. Yes.
The eye in the sky wants to know if we do we add the cheese into the pasta after we drain it?
So the cheese goes into your milk sauce. So you should have some flour and butter together, and then you're adding your milk into that, and then you're adding the cheese into that. And so the cheese goes into your milk sauce that's in the separate pot from the pasta. Does that make sense? That help?
What'd you say? Hold on, I'm just trying to get on this.
Oh, that's my timer. All right. So we're going to check these chicken tenders out. Woo! Look at those bad boys right there. Are they looking gorgeous or what? They are super hot. We're going to give them a quick temperature check. And like I said, 160 degrees is what we're looking for in the center.
Watching the live Zoom meeting right now, and I just renamed it, so it's got you up there, and you just finished and watching Chef Robert.
All right, thank you. All right, and we are there. So, all we've got to do to finish this up is just put 3 of those delicious chicken tenders on there with our macaroni and cheese. And this is how we do it, guys. Macaroni and cheese, cheddar sauce, oven roasted, oven baked, chicken fingers, delicious, fantastic. Hope you guys enjoy this meal. Coming up next, we've got a homelessness panel that's going to be starting exactly at 6:30. You got about 2 minutes before that cranks up. If there's any last minute questions, I'd be happy to answer them before we switch over to that program.
Robert, thank you.
Absolutely, my pleasure. I can't believe we did it in 30 minutes.
That was amazing. Thank you so much. It
You're
was
very, very
terrific.
welcome.
All right, we're going to head on to our next program.
Awesome. Thank you, Diana. Thank you, everybody, for a great sleep out. Tonight's awesome.
That's really good. With the tree of life behind it.
All right, thank you, Chef Robert. I just wish that he lived a little closer so he could bring me some macaroni and cheese, because that looked really, really, really good. So thank you, Chef. Terrific, terrific job. So we are getting ready right now for our panel on homelessness. And I just want to do a little sound check. Donald, can you just check in with me?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
We cannot hear you, Donald.
Hey, cannot hear me.
I'm sorry. We can't hear you. Now we can.
You can? Okay, good.
Yes.
Oh,
You sound great. Thank you.
Yes,
Sounds
ma'am.
great. And now we're just waiting for Doc to join us. So as soon as we can get Doc on, we will get rocking and rolling. Hi,
All
guys.
right.
Doc,
Hi,
you need
I
to
let Don
start
my
your video. There you go.
Okay, great.
Doc, make sure you unmute yourself too, please.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? All right.
Hello, Doc.
Hey, how you doing, Miss Diane?
I am doing terrific, honey. How are you tonight?
I'm good. I'm good. I appreciate that.
Good. I'm waiting for the go from the team here. So they're telling me it's a go. Meredith is giving us the team here. So welcome, everybody. This is our panel on homelessness, and I'm just so grateful that you all could join us tonight. I am so honored to be able to introduce you to two incredible men that wanted to share their journey with all of us tonight on SleepIn for SleepOut. These are men that I've had the opportunity to know for many years, and I have watched them go from struggles of homelessness to independence, to empowerment, to resilience, and most of all to redemption. And I am just so proud that they are with us tonight on this panel. So let me introduce you first to James Doc Robinson, and he's right here. You can
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Everybody.
So
All the
James
sleep
Robinson,
hours.
he is Doc, and he's known by Doc by everyone that knows and loves him. So thank you for being with us. And then we also have tonight Donald Anderson, and Donald is with us. So welcome, Donald.
Hey there. How are you, Diana?
Good to see you, sweetheart. So glad to have you here. So we have 30 minutes, guys, to just kind of tell the story about what it was like to go from homelessness to where you are today. So I'm going to start with, we've got 5 or 6 questions we're going to ask, and I'll start with you first, Donald, if that's okay.
That's okay.
And I just wanted you to briefly tell us, what was your life like before you came to the Lord's place?
Before the Lord's place, I came from Texas to Florida for treatment. I got on heavy drugs while I was in Florida when I first got here. And I ended up homeless on the streets, doing a lot of drugs, crack, and so forth, a lot of different things, and got in a lot of trouble. And so I had got put in a halfway house, and I was struggling, man. I was still hopeless. I was off drugs, but I was still hopeless and still did not have that hope. And I started going to these meetings on Tuesday night that you were having at the Lord's place. The guy at the shelter I was in told me about the Lord's place. So I started going on Tuesday and Thursday nights, and so that's how I ended up getting in by meeting Calvin. But I had a company, destroyed my company, destroyed all my family relationships, everybody that was kin to me and loved me, and I felt like an island to myself. But I caused those issues, and so the journey has been long. We'll talk about that later. But I'm glad to be here and thankful for where I am, what the Lord's done in my life.
Thank you. Doc, what about you? Tell us about your life before you got to the Lord's place.
Well, the thing about it wasn't life at all. It was just a straight struggle and madness. End up, selling drugs. Then as time progressed, end up not being my best customer. I was one of my own customers. And it's just, I seen my associations change, you know. And I seen a lot of people was hurt who really cared about me, didn't want to see me in that condition. I'd be gone all night, you know, sleep during the day. And what really woke me up, I went into a friend of mine, Jerome Burgess, and his grandmother was sitting there, and I came in, she said, "Look at Batman." And I said, "Miss Honey, why you call me Batman?" "Because you only come out at night." And,
Oh.
and listen, I don't know how she knew that.
Right.
And I just seen, like I said, it was just, I didn't even look like I wanted to go to the unemployment office. You know, I didn't feel like it. I might have looked.
Where did you come to us from, Doc? I remember. Where was you?
I came straight out of prison.
That's what I thought. Okay, that's right. And so when you got out of prison, if I remember correctly, you didn't have anywhere to go at that point.
Nowhere.
Right?
My parents, my father had died in 97. My mother was killed. She was in her 80s, round about 2004. And me and my siblings didn't ever stay together. I had a brother. He was out in California, but I didn't want to, you know, they had my own papers.
Right.
So that would have been a mess. And I met Miss Cooley, the reentry.
Right.
Cooley, Mr. Mercedes, the whole team of people. But first I had observed Calvin coming in, but I didn't know who he was. He used to set up shops. And then I went and got his card and spoke with him briefly. And I never knew I was going to end up there because Miss Cooley wanted me in Georgia for whatever reason.
Right.
God wanted me there at the Lord's place with a caseworker named Stephanie Police.
Absolutely.
When they told me, I said, "Who is Stephanie?" They say, "Oh, that's Stephanie Police." I thought they were saying she was the police. I said, "You snitching?" They say, "No, man, that's that woman name ain't no police." So when I went in there and met her, you know, God really has a sense of humor, you know.
Yeah, he does.
He kept the police right there. And not only was she my caseworker, she was my counselor and my therapist. I mean, she was good. She was really good.
So for those new folks that are listening to the work of the Lord's Place, two names keep appearing. One is Stephanie and one is Kelvin. And so let me just tell the audience that Kelvin Phillips is our Vice President of Housing and Stephanie Police is one of our case managers. And both of you, both Donald and Doc, have connections to them. And I think it just reinforces that the real secret sauce at the Lord's Place really is the staff, right? I mean, it's the staff that just wraps their arms around you and you think you're going to get away from them and they don't let you get away from them. And so that's just the way that works. So let me ask you this then. This is the question I think so many people ask. I hear so many people asking this question to our clients. What was the one thing that triggered you to say, I don't want this life anymore? What was that turning point? What was the thing that turned the light switch on? And I'm going to start with Donald if I can. What happened, or what was the thing that said, you know what, there's got to be more to life than this? Donald?
Well, Diana, I came from a career minded set. I had a career and everything in Texas, and I lost it all. And so when I got to Florida and I got to the end of my journey of drugs and alcohol, I'll never forget pulling my suitcase down 45th Street, nowhere to go, no money. And there was only two options for me. Either God was going to show up or I was going to die. And I had no hope. I mean, I literally had zero hope, had zero money, had zero everything. I had my suitcase and that's all it was. And I went from doing very well and successful in Texas to turning into drugs and alcohol. And I think I think it was hopeless. Even at that point, I didn't know that was the bottom. I thought the bottom way, you just wake up one day, it's going to be the bottom. My bottom was either suicidal or I'm going to get help. And through a journey, God ended up putting me in Jerome Golden Center. Then I ended up in the Lord's Place, and God began to restore hope back into me. And that's what you mentioned. Two names, Stephanie and Calvin. Stephanie was my caseworker. I love her. She spent time with me. Calvin has spent time with me over the last 6-7 years or 5 years. So my journey was I was at the end where there was no hope. That was my end. That was my end. It truly was.
Yeah. And I think, Donald, when you and I talked a long time ago, you said to me that you felt like there was nothing left at the bottom, right? There was nothing beyond the bottom. You had really reached that. And I do think that's what I hear that often from all of our clients, right? That suddenly something happens when they realize they can't go any further because they're there. And that's where they wake up and they finally say, I want more than what this life can offer.
Yeah.
So, And we're just grateful that that happened to you so you could be in our world. Thank you for
agree.
sharing that honesty. Doc, what about you, sweetheart? What was the moment that you said, you know what, I want to change. I don't want this world anymore.
I think it was several things, but as you asked that question, something just came to me and I still remember it. Well, first I was sentenced to natural life in prison with 30 plus 10 and 3 mandatory. Okay. Then my mother walked out of the courtroom before they sentenced me. It's like she already knew. That hurt me. As I'm in prison, I'm at the day room looking out the window. At the window, they got bars. Then they got another gate with razor wire. Then they got a perimeter with laser going through it. Another gate with razor wire. Then there's a truck or a car passing by with a shotgun. And I'm saying, they are protecting society from me. And I'm not that bad.
Wow.
That really was a wake up.
Wow.
No matter what I felt about me, the system said, we are protecting society from me. And then, of course, my parents died while I was in prison. And I had nothing. Even my inheritance, I had a house on 14th. That was took. So I filed a lawsuit for it. I've been winning. And that was in 2010. So the court system is something else. Anyway, but it's been favoring me. But just having nothing and my supporting cast, my parents was dead.
Yeah.
You know? And you saying, okay, you got natural life in prison. I mean, people gonna be born who ain't gonna even know me.
Right? Sure.
People gonna get old and forget about me.
Sure.
Out of sight, out of mind, you know.
Right.
I think all that played a part. Just the nothingness. And I seen this thing.
Yeah.
This prison and stuff is for people that don't want to change. This ain't for me.
Right.
You know, no problem changing. You know, this ain't for me. I think
thank you guys for being so honest. I know this is really quite a journey. So thank you for that. So now let's talk about where we are today, right? So you've been at the Lord's Place. And so for those of you that don't know, these are our graduates. So we're so proud we can be a graduate of Lord's Place. So both Doc and Donald are graduates. So where are you now? Donald, tell us where you are in your life today, honey.
Well, the journey of the Lord's Place, I stayed at the Lord's Place for almost 5 years, and I needed stability. I had gotten way out of control, ended up on the needle and way out of control, and over a 15-year, I call it a fade. And so when I came to the Lord's Place, it began to change my life because I began to be a part of the care team, would take care of me, counseling, psychology. I got plugged back into the Lord. I got me a job. I grew in that job. I'm now at the top of the chain where I am right now, and I think that's going to change here soon. But I am in a great place right now. I live in one of your houses now.
Yay! Thank you to our friends at St. Mark's. I just have to do a shout out to them because St. Mark's gives us a home once a year for our graduates to live in. So that's where you are now, Donald. So that's terrific.
But I needed, Diana, the biggest thing for me is I've been on ripping and rolling for many years, and I needed stability. I needed structure. I needed stability. The Lord Place provided that. I'm just telling you, the love from Calvin and Stephanie Police, you and all the Lord's Place have been nothing but gracious to me. And so that foundation, knowing I'd be coming home to a place where there's no drugs, no alcohol, didn't have to worry about that side of the coin. And the financial, I don't know, it just how y'all give back to be able to start a new life and not to be stuck with paying $1,000 a month for rent and having over the top of me. But the way you have it set up and you give back to your clients is a huge deal. But the stability over 4.5 years at the men's campus got me that stability, where I was able to move into this house now, and I've been in ministry at other places now, and I'm restoring family now, and God. Yeah,
let's talk about the family for a moment, because I think that's the most exciting part for you. Tell everyone about that.
I broken families. I have 3 kids: a 40-year-old daughter, 39, 41, fixing to be at 39, and then a 34-year-old son. I had no relationship with them. Drugs and alcohol completely cut me off from them. So over the last 5 years. I started reaching out 3 years after I'd been in recovery because I couldn't call back because I had to have time to prove trust. And so what happened, my daughter, oldest daughter, which I love so much, she had a certain way she wanted me to do it. And I said, okay, I'm going to do it their way. And I wanted to. It's in my heart to do it her way because I really felt like her way was the right way, her and her husband. And so I began flying into Texas. I met with her for the first time at the same restaurant we met at when they confronted me on drugs, and we didn't even know that. 11 years prior to that. And then we had another meeting. Then she asked me, and the second time we met, would you like to come over and meet your grandchildren? And that broke me up. And another thing she had told me she said she had to learn to be able to live without me. She had in counseling, and that really touched my heart because I know the people that acted like a father figure to her whenever I was out of the picture, so that I've restored. I've been back 3 or 4 times. I went back this last weekend, my first Christmas ever with my grandchildren.
That's so cool.
With all my grandchildren at my daughter's house, and
they're
coming here on May 15th to the 25th. The husband and wife, my daughter, and their 4 grandchildren are coming here for 10 days.
Wonderful.
So thankful and grateful for what they're restoring. But I will say this: you have to do it your way and be humble because I had to realize that I'm the one that made the pieces break.
Sure.
God has to use me to do the right thing and be willing to do whatever it takes to bring that back around.
And family reunification is such an important piece of the work that we do because what we tend to forget sometimes is that a person who is experiencing homelessness, that homelessness impacts the entire world, right? That their entire family unit. So that is a great story. I'm so happy that you're back with them. So thank you for sharing that, Donald. That's terrific. Okay, Doc, tell me where you are today. Here you are, fast forward. Jonay Reed told me how you never ever wanted to go into job training, but she made you go. And now I know you have a great success story. Want to share that with our audience tonight?
Yeah. Coming, when I was in prison, I was taught to take prison as a process. You may not be able to go to Yale or Harvard, but you're going to prison or jail. So make that your instrument. I came out and I understood that this was a continuation of the process because I had arrived back home, but I hadn't arrived yet. And one of the biggest miracles, I got married. Now that wasn't going to happen in my life at all. Hey, come on. Let's take it. Say, hey, this
absolutely. We're family.
Hey,
love it.
That's the Lord's place. Let's see it.
Hi, sweetie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
So good to meet you. You got a good one there.
Yeah, he is. He really is.
Well, so wonderful to meet you. That's so sweet. Thank you.
All right. So, and then I got hooked up because I had 2 stepchildren before I went in, and I hadn't seen them for 20 years because I was in there for years. And I got my daughter Nicole's number, and I called it.
Oh.
And I was talking. I said, "You know what this is?" She said, "No." I say, "This your daddy." She went to screaming. Right? She kept screaming about 3 solid minutes. She said, "Where you at? I'm coming to get you right now." And God restored those relationships all over again. And her and my other daughter, which was my stepdaughter, used to take me out to all these restaurants, the Robin Baskin, whatever they are, the Robin something.
Yeah, Baskin Robbins, with a great ice cream. They got it.
I didn't eat outside, even whatever I wanted. And it was just heartfelt. But right now, I got a certificate. I'm a certified recovery coach. I'm a behavior tech. Me and my wife put together something called Extreme Solutions. We trying to, and if you also know, because when I was managing Riverside, I was a lot of clients from the Lord's place giving back because I think Calvin didn't understand. I never told him because he said, "Doc, I ain't got time. You just want to see me all the time." Because I wanted to see how he done it,
Right.
He was the leader of this, and I had a passion for what he was doing. I want to see when he has a phone, how he responds. I want to see it all. And I applied what I learned just watching him.
Yep.
How he handled different situations. And so I'm still in that field. I just have a passion to help. Just under the bridge the other day, taking what I took. Well, I got some shoes here now, and it's just what it is,
So it's paying forward, Doc. I mean, that's what it is, right?
Yeah,
you have to pay it forward.
Yeah.
But you also have don't you have a business? Don't you have a business?
Yes, I have a window cleaning business. Crystal glass window cleaning. Now,
the window cleaning business. That's right.
The thing about it, God gave me the name like 15 years ago. I was in prison, and I thought I was going to have another child, girl, and I was going to name her Crystal Glass, right? Yeah, that's what every female said. They just like, don't pay that child. It was a stage number. Yeah, she's gonna be Crystal Glass Robinson. And come to find out, it was given to me for that because I'm gonna get it on Sunday. Nobody's touched it, you know. And I really enjoy that.
That's so cool.
Entrepreneurship and just being
Sure.
my own boss, you know what I mean? And seeing people. I go and I got me a uniform. I got some stuff.
I love it.
What is called when you get it engrafted?
Oh yeah, you have a logo or embroidered. Embroidered.
Yeah,
yes, you have it embroidered.
Yeah, I went
there
to the embroidery shop.
Now you're official, honey. You're official when you have Crystal there.
So when I come, I look like I got this big old company.
And Doc, let me tell you, it's much better name for a business than it is for a child. So I'm really glad that you went that route. So that was really good, sweetheart. I'm very proud of you on that one.
Yes.
Okay, Donald.
Yes.
And where are you working these days, honey?
I work at Investments Limited out of Boca Raton. I've been there, December will be 7 years.
Right.
So I've been there, but I'm looking at a change here soon, employment. And so I've been there that long. And,
good. And you're loving it. You're doing property management, right?
Property management. I manage Broward County. I got about 70 properties and have about 12 to 14 people that work for me and actually work with me. But it's I do that every day and been doing it for almost 7 years.
That's very cool.
And one thing I just want to say too, me and my son talk every day, all the time now. And we're on Zoom every day. And so that relationship was restored also.
Yeah, and that's the one that I got to meet at Christmas time a couple years ago, right? Yes. Yeah, that was really special. So gentlemen, let me ask you a question on this. What do you think is the one misconception people have about homelessness? You know, when we are driving down the street and we see the homeless, so what's the one thing that you wish you could tell the audience that people perceive wrongly about those experiencing homelessness? And I'll start with you, Doc. One
of the things I believe that people, when they see that, they don't see the person, because I've met people with master's degrees was homeless. And what happens is when you see them out there in that condition, you got to realize somewhere in life they gave up hope. They gave up expectation. Oh, interesting. But if you've never been there, or see, some people done it, but they had a supporting cast. They had a place to lay their head. Because one of the things the Lord placed done, the most important, they gave me somewhere to lay my head. Yeah. That was the biggest thing. And plus the opportunities that present themselves. But people, it's some beautiful people that's homeless. To be honest, I deal with all kinds of people. I deal with people with all kinds of alphabets in front of their names, alphabets behind their names. But some of the most realest people are what we call homeless people. Yeah, I agree. I've seen homeless people do more sharing with items. Yes. Because a Newport speaks every language. I don't care who he is. You know, somebody give me got a cigarette. Yeah. Never seen you before. But in society, what we call people that really educated people, sometimes the same type love and realness just ain't there, you know? Sure. It's amazing. But I think when people see something, they don't take time to engage the person. Do you think, and I think sometimes people put blame on the homeless. I think that there's a lot of blame. You know, they're there because of the life choices they've made. They're there, and oftentimes we tend to forget that not all of them are there because of life choices, or those life choices occurred, and Donald, you could probably address this, because of some trauma that you've had in your own life, right? So that we're so eager to judge, and it's so easy for us to judge when really we need to not judge, and we need to be able to give people hope. And I think that's what you were saying, Doc. So Donald, what's your thoughts on that? What's the one misconception you think people have on homelessness today?
I think a lot of people separate them as bad people, look at them as having no money, but no one knows their story, how they got there, the abuse that they've been through. It can touch people that have been rich, it can be poor. I was in the upper end of that echelon. It touched me and I ended up homeless. So there's a story behind every homeless person, and they're to be loved. And I tell you that I work in the homeless ministry up in Boca too, and you see in here, and you see a lot of very smart people. They're educated people. Yeah. All of them aren't like can't read or write and they're on the street. They ain't doing no. A lot of them just have bad circumstances happen, and so it's real easy for people to judge who they are and what they're doing. And I was homeless. I ended up being homeless, and so because people loved me and reached out to me, cared for me, he was able to bring me out of that place and back to normalcy again. So homeless people are people that have a past. And if you look into it, a lot of them been hurt. A lot of them been damaged by parents, dads, fathers, mothers, whatever it is, circumstances are. So you never know the words that you can say to somebody that can make a difference. And I look at the Lord's place, and if everybody had a place like the Lord's place and was willing to do it, it'd be a fabulous. It'd be fabulous. But the Lord, they're people. They're not people that you cast away. They're real people with real needs, and that's what I really appreciate since being at the Lord's place and seeing that and understanding it better since I've been at the Lord's place.
Sure. Doc, I think you said it so well. I mean, part of what we have to always remember is that homelessness is, and people have heard me say this 100 times, right? You're homeless because you don't have a home. You don't have a place to lay your head at night, right? And just imagine if we had more housing, and Donald, you probably know this too, the minute you put someone in a house, they feel differently about themselves, right? That fear of having to sleep out on the street, suddenly, at least it disappears somewhat, right? Where you see a little bit of hope moving forward. And it is all about making sure somebody has a place to live. I mean, that's really what it's all about at the end. Yeah.
Let me say this too, Don, because it's something that just popped in my mind. Being in the working in these treatment centers for like 8 years, to be totally honest, if these kids in these treatment centers, parents didn't have insurance for them, all of them would be homeless. Now, why do I see how the police, when they find out they're in treatment, they treat them a certain way. And they treat the person on the street a different way. But these kids would be homeless also. Only thing keeping them from homeless is an insurance policy.
Yeah. Or what Annie Noble says so lovely. They have a safety gap, right? I mean, we have a safety net.
Yeah, that's a net.
We have a safety net, right? So if I was experiencing homelessness or if I was dealing with addiction or had problems with physical health, or I lost my home, I have a family, right? That would wrap their arms around me and help me. And so oftentimes the people that we serve, it's just that they don't have that. They don't have that safety net in their life. And that's what causes homelessness to happen.
I didn't have it. I didn't even see the threads on the ground. Let's mow the net. And you guys provided that. You provided opportunity. And I used to tell guys, take advantage of the opportunities that the Lord place presents, but don't take advantage of the people that present the opportunities. And I try to feel that with all the guys,
I love that. I love that. I think we should put that up on a banner. I think that should be something we put up on a banner. That's pretty cool. I do like that. Okay, guys, we're coming to the end of our time together, but I wanted to just ask you to leave. I wanted to ask you to share some departing thoughts on your journey out of homelessness. What are one or two words that really explain where you are today and what the Lord's place has done to get you to where you are today? And I'll start with you, Donald.
Where I am today, Diana, one of the things that really, having housing stability, being able to have a job, I also went outside of the Lord's place because they encourage that, to get plugged into good people, get plugged into recovery meetings. And I chose to go to Celebrate Recovery. For the last 5 years, I've been plugged into that on a weekly basis for 5 years. And that fellowship and brotherhood and accountability and going to those meetings and stuff like that has added another avenue. But without that housing, without the support of the Lord's place, none of that would ever happen. Because I'd be chasing probably every center to go to and run out of money and have to go to another one and not have that stability. So the Lord place gave me that stability to rebuild my life while I had a place to stay. And part of the rebuilding process on the front end was Stephanie Police, counseling, counseling, psychiatry, all that played a piece in it, me starting out. And so that gave me the ability and the hope to go out and plug into other people and other relationships.
So yours is really restoration and stability, right? Those are the two things.
Restoration and stability.
Your journey. Those were the two common denominators that got to where you are today.
It really is.
Fair assessment.
I have and I'll say I had the greatest sponsor in the world.
That's the other piece of it, right? Is during the times of recovery. Yep.
I'll say his name's Glenn, and he's on here listening tonight, I think. But I'm gonna say thank you Glenn, for all the time that you spent with me, and you're still spending with me.
I love it. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And Doc, tell us your last departing thoughts for this evening on where you are now and what were the words and that tells you what the journey's been like for you.
I want to say this. One of the things that even got me to this point was the Lord's place. There was a lady there who worked there. I want to say her name was Sydney. To this day, she never said she was the one. Somebody needed a housing manager to manage 28 people. And some kind of way, well, she gave them my name, never said anything about it to this day. And we was trying to figure out how it happened. So the people contacted Stephanie, and Stephanie told the people, don't look for nobody else, we got your person.
I love it.
So the guy wanted to meet me, and I was a field agent for Insurance Wireless. I actually was outside the Lord's place on Australia with my phone set up.
Right.
And the guy came there. He said, what do you think about it? I said, yeah, it's pretty good, man. He said, would you like to see where you're going to stay?
I love it.
I said, yeah. He said, well, when can you go see it? I said, we can go right now, right? So we from right down the street into North on Hummingbird's Way.
Yep.
5 apartments down, 5 up, with a boat, waterfront property. And he said, this whole big apartment is your apartment.
Yep.
And I said, okay. And it went from there, Matt, but understand that I done seen Calvin do this stuff.
Right. So that's when you were able to take it to the next level, right?
Exactly.
What's the one word, Doc? What's the one word?
What's
the one word in your journey that you'd want people to know that represented your journey? What's the one word?
Just never lose hope. People can take everything from you, but if you ever allow someone to take your hope, they're taking expectation. You can take the house, the car, the jewelry, you can take peace off, but if you take my hope, I'm wrong. But long as I got hope, long as I got an expectation,
you got the hope.
A chance. And the Lord place gave me and kept me with hope.
Thank you. All right, gentlemen, we are up to the hour, and I am now going to tell all our audience, thank you, Doc and Donald, for joining your stories. It is 7 o'clock, a minute away.
Thank you.
In the chat button right now is the link to go right on to the Lord's Place virtual program for SleepIn, for SleepOut. So we'll see you over there. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Diana.
So grateful for both of you.
Love you
We'll
much.
see you at SleepIn's program.
All right.
God bless. Bye, guys.